it's poached, yeah. So you just break the eggs into a bowl.
Yeah.
And then they simmer until they're done to the degree that.
Yeah, I hate it.
I like it. But some people like it.
I had the collection dinner.
This was, so you use the duck eggs? We used the duck eggs. This was on
And just started
Sunday.
I
Decided
I was
dinner until like 5 late, and some of us, hungry. So she said, oh, well, how about some?
yeah, yeah, right.
Yes,
All right.
I don't think I ever had a
It's very,
yeah, right. It's like once in a while. Well, yes, but also,
Here's Finch Fresh, it was along with the,
at some places,
7 or 8 men who were dressed as belly dancers.
Right, yeah, yeah, it was a very Chinese restaurant.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's just many different pieces. It was done in conjunction.
Yeah, I know, now I'm starving.
All I had was iced tea this morning.
Yeah, I had a couple of
Last
coffees.
piece they did was it was like 12 minutes long, and it really right. I had one.
Yeah.
It really was spectacular. So different. I said, we stood around and they were dancing around.
Well, that's how James Jam sandwich.
Oh, okay.
Well, that was healthy.
Yeah,
It was high protein.
Yeah, that's the thing. I just
Yeah.
I'm hoping they have something basic down here.
I don't think it was check on that schedule. Now it's like, it was like nothing.
Teach the second and third graders, they were strong.
Oh, that's right.
And that is
Training is one.
Yeah.
Do that, do the deed.
I'm doing that yourself.
Yes.
Thinking about it last week, I was in LA.
Oh.
I didn't see the whole, I didn't go, in church.
Ah.
And then our host were having a really important conversation with a
Really?
friend, and they were like,
This
I mean,
is
I don't know.
so-
Well, it's great. No, I love that.
Yeah.
One of my first basketball players.
I don't think I've ever been to, like, Universal Studios has a big thing, but
This is a downtown. I love that.
I'll have to mention that to my brother, who lives north, he lives up in Santa Rosa, but his brother-in-law's family lives near, they're closer to LA, like Glendale or somewhere like that.
Sometimes you have to go to settings and read yourself.
Oh, right near my, I'll have to.
It's really interesting.
If you think of it, email me, so my brain remembers. There's another museum in that area, it's the Unitarian Museum of Los Angeles. I am one, and I'm on their mailing list because of the national group that I sit in on Zoom meetings with. And they have a lot of interesting stuff going on there. It's like anytime they have somebody, usually they're speaking, stuff like that. Sometimes it's.
Yeah, I didn't know whether this was a special exhibit or whether it's.
Last year was the 50th anniversary, so they may have put it up, you know. Horst, that's good eye. It's like,
Thank you. Thank you, Beth, for that lovely opening music. Good morning. My name is Marjorie Wormser. I'm your Sunday associate this morning, and welcome to the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship here in this room and online. We covenant to weave together the fabric of community from the strands of our separate lives. We are an inclusive, welcoming, radically inclusive, welcoming, justice-seeking community, and whoever you are, wherever you are in life's journey, you are welcome here. We adhere to the principles of Unitarian Universalism, which you can find on this card that would be in the slot of the chair in front of you. It's also in the inside of the gray hymnal that's in the slot of the seat in front of you. And feel free to take this card with you. There's additional information at the welcome table in the Great Hall. This is a great time to silence any noise-making devices you may have. Let's try that. Anything that would make a sound during our service. And I'd invite you to greet someone you didn't come with this morning. Could be an elbow bump, could be a handshake, could be a hello. Please take a moment to demonstrate our welcome, congregation. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for greeting one another so warmly. I think it's one of my favorite parts of a Sunday morning. I have a few brief announcements to share. Today at 12:45 p.m. in room 204, which is upstairs and over what we call the terrace room. It's the big room upstairs and to the end of the hallway. There will be a listening session on the use of the kitchen pass-through window in the new two-family hall, which we will be building. This is intended to hear your views so the best design decisions can be made. The Thursday evening Buddhist Sangha meditation begins this coming Thursday, April 20th at 7:30 p.m. Please check the e-blast for additional information. If you don't get the e-blast, you can go to our website, MUUF.org, and I believe there's a section called Calendar or Events, and you can find it there. Please join us on April 23rd after each service for a special coffee hour to kick off our annual budget drive. This fellowship is presenting a drag story hour on Saturday, May 6th at 11 a.m. And for more information and reserve a ticket, please visit the Realm database. The Fund Committee is hosting a comedy show on that same day, Saturday, May 6th at 2 p.m. This will feature Drew Hayes, Christine Frederick, Rita Morris, David Landau. All are welcome and admission is free. We're almost done. 2 more. And an early start to our summer schedule will take place or begin on Sunday, May 7th. That's 3 weeks from now. Our Sunday worship services will go into summertime schedule with a single 10 a.m. service on Sundays through to Labor Day. And May 7th will be exciting. The worship service celebrates the 100th anniversary of the Flower Communion and will be led by the Reverend Joel Miller and the second grade religious education class. After the 10 a.m. service, we'll have a brunch, and then the morning will conclude with a congregational meeting to vote on the Ministerial Search Committee. Mark your calendars for this important Sunday and join us online or in person. And finally, there is a message from our president, Laurent Comes. He writes, "Good morning. This message is from Laurent, the board president. I could not be here at 9:30, but will be available at 10:30 a.m. to answer any questions regarding the Ministerial Search Committee slate online vote. Apologies for the 2 emails on Friday, as the first email had an incorrect link for the biographies of the nominees. As of earlier this morning, we have over 50 votes, and the vote window will stay open until April 25th. Again, any questions, please find me after the service or contact me. Thank you, Laurent. And our service begins.
Unfortunately, I learned how to picket before I learned how to talk and listen, how to complain before I learned how to communicate, how to express my feelings of anger and hurt before I learned how to empathize, and how to react before I learned how to hold still, own my feelings, and then act helpfully. Now I am learning how to promote my values and those of the groups with which I identify, while at the same time empathizing with those who may strategize quite differently. I strive for evolutionary relatedness. These words were written by our own Alan Wells some time ago, but they couldn't have resonated with me, my own experience any more deeply. 4 years ago, Alan's words, 4 years ago, Bob, David, and I, that's Bob Calafiore, David Horst, and I created BUTTON, which is an acronym for Bring Us Together Now, with several other fellowship members, because we observed growing division and acrimony among ordinary people over our nation's politics. We were concerned about damaged friendships, damaged family relationships, damaged communities. Keenly aware of our differing views, we held facilitated small group discussions between ourselves and sometimes with guests. Our first goal was to learn how to listen to each other respectfully without needing agreement across our different points of view. Together, we began exploring books, social media sites, and organizations that could help us help others. Due to the COVID pandemic, our workshops were curtailed, unfortunately. In faith, we use affirm unconditional, universal love as a foundation and grounding for our actions in the world. What does this really mean? Since UUs are generally a progressive collective, we want to challenge our own collective assumptions and not act as an echo chamber or silo unto ourselves. But it takes awareness and practice. We welcome you to join us.
Please join me in reading the Chalice Lighting words.
Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another.
Okay, do we have any children here to join me for Time for All Ages? Great, thank you. Hello. We'll sit here. We'll sit here. We'll sit on top. Okay, great, thank you. Any more? Okay. This is a book about people of different colors, red, yellow, and blue. But as we read this story, think about how people could be different lots of other ways. Like they could be bigger and smaller, they could be taller and shorter, they could play differently, they could pray differently, they might even be thinking differently, okay? The book is called Mix,
No, it's called,
a colorful story. Mixed?
no, it's called The Colorful Story Mixed.
Oh, a colorful story mixed. Okay. In the beginning, there were 3 colors: reds, yellows, and blues. You can see it up there too if you like. Reds were the loudest. What does it say?
La, 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 la.
That's not loud.
That's not loud, Alice. Let me try.
Good. Thank you. You pass.
I failed.
Okay. Yellows were the brightest. Who can be bright? Is that it? How can you be bright like that? Yeah. And blues were the coolest. Who could be cool? You guys want to be cool? Yeah. Everyone lived in color harmony until one afternoon when a red said, "Reds are the..."
Best.
Shouted it from the
Worst.
top of all these boxes, right?
That's not the worst.
And the yellow said, "No, we're the best.
We're the worst because we're the brightest.
We're the best because we're the brightest." You're getting ahead of the story.
worst.
Best.
Alice, I think we need to go back to kindergarten and learn to read.
No, I think she's
Second
just
grade.
creative. Okay. The blues were too cool to even respond. The colors decided to live in separate parts of the city. So there were the Yellow Heights, and there was Redville, and there was Bluetown. But then, one day, a yellow noticed a blue. And something happened. I feel so happy when I'm near you, and I feel so calm when I'm with you. Yellow and blue became inseparable. Life felt so vibrant. But not all the colors were happy about it. Colors shouldn't mix. I don't like yellow's effect on blue. That blue isn't bright enough for yellow. But yellow and blue loved each other so much, they decided to mix. Together, they created a new color. They named her green. Green was bright like yellow and calm like blue, but really she was a color all her own. Everyone was fascinated. I have a lot of remarks. She's so cute. I've never seen anything like her before. Even the grumpy colors fell in love with green. Can I hold her? The colors began to see new possibilities. Soon other colors mixed and mixed and mixed and mixed. There were so many new colors and a lot of new names. Be careful, Jade. Don't forget your glasses, Lavender. Have fun, Amber. The old neighborhoods of Redville, Bluetown, and Yellow Heights didn't make sense anymore. Everyone wanted to live together, so they rebuilt the whole city. The new city was full of color. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. Thank you for joining me.
They were all fighting over who's the worst.
We won't vote out loud. Okay. We're done. Ready to go? Class? Okay.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Thank you for that lovely time for all the ages, Joe, and managing the unbridled enthusiasm that sprung forth. So this is the time in our service where we share deeply important personal milestones that have happened during the week. Know that we are your community. If you have a serious need or have suffered a personal tragedy, we want to help. And if you have a new member in your family or other personal joy, we are eager for the chance to celebrate with you. And I have two here. I didn't know if there are any others coming forward. Okay. Shari Lowe writes, my mother, Lee Lowe, died on Monday at the age of 94. We miss her so much. The world has lost a great soul and a bright light in service of peace, justice, and love for the earth and all its creatures, including the humans. Please visit my Facebook page for some wonderful photos that her family has shared to get a glimpse of her amazing life. Yes, let us hold every moment. It's precious. We never know what will come next. I have a brief thank you to share. I have heartfelt thanks to all who sent healing thoughts and prayers for my sister-in-law who underwent a 2-part surgery that would be on the 4th and this past Friday as well for a deep brain stimulator apparatus to mitigate the onset of her Parkinson's symptoms. She's doing really well. She's managing pain, but she's doing really well. And we are hopeful for some very good results once the apparatus can be tuned up. We are happy for all who feel comfortable to share your personal joys and concerns, and we recognize that some concerns may be too private to be shared at this moment. Let us respect those needs and the ones we have heard in a few moments of silent meditation. O Spirit of life, known by many names, yet by no name fully known, we gather today with hopes and dreams, and also with fears and wounds. May we be reminded that all things come and go, that today's joys and today's sorrows will in time give way to those of tomorrow. And those of us who have strength to share today, let's do so while we can. And those who are in need, let's allow ourselves to receive, for tomorrow those roles might well be reversed. And now is the time in our service where we give and receive our weekly offering. We believe that generosity changes lives. It changes the lives of people in our community, and it changes our own lives in the giving. Every week, 50% of the offering goes to support our good work here at the Fellowship, and 50% goes to support the good work of nonprofit organizations in our community. Please give generously. Every bit helps. Thank you.
My brother John and I have been good friends ever since realizing early in childhood that fighting was not effective. During his college years, he struggled with a chronic condition which threatened to upend his life. He eventually found community and support in an evangelical congregation and found comfort and meaning in the faith that was offered. Coming together as young adults, we noticed that our previous affection was coming under threat. We both valued our friendship and so settled into an unsatisfying compromise of avoiding certain topics. We would have to admit that our relationship had suffered. During this time, I was starting my scientific career, and I came to recognize the value of truth. Views of truth are hard won. They take time and effort to uncover, and they demand an openness to something new. It can be upsetting when we feel that truth is being disregarded. Models of the world that arise from those views of truth are precious. They enable us to do consequential things. Many of our greatest successes in science and in the arts are grounded in this. Unfortunately, we can come to love our models too much and try to apply them where they don't belong. In his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman talks about two modes of thinking. One automatic and intuitive, the other controlled and logical. The automatic mode comes without effort. The controlled one takes time and energy. We don't tend to fire up our controlled mode unless it serves our purposes. For instance, when our beliefs are challenged, defaulting to the automatic mode otherwise. Worse, we tend to interpret opinions different from our own, for instance, when my brother starts into creationism, as threats which engage our fight or flight response. We have other cognitive biases. For instance, we tend to choose avoiding a loss over an equal or greater gain. Related to this, we can easily be motivated by fear to do things that are against our own interests. I'm sure you have all experienced a raising of hackles when you encounter a person who states an opinion that you find repugnant. That unpleasant experience can make us avoid such interactions entirely. Fortunately, psychologists have found ways to help us navigate these limitations. First, we can become more understanding of others when we recognize that each of us are subject to the same limitations in our own thinking as they. We are guided to take a pause and a few breaths when threatened, to let our controlled mode of thinking come into play. There are practices we can learn to help us become more effective communicators across difference. For instance, humility, acknowledging that we speak for ourselves and not authoritatively, owning our uncertainty, owning being wrong when appropriate. When done well, we become more believable. Framing a conversation as an opportunity to learn rather than a threat, and listening more than talking. Having read some articles and completed training, I got enough confidence to try out some of the learnings in conversations with my brother and others. I found that the process of exercising these practices forced me to engage my logical mind, opening up the possibility to view conversations in more creative ways. I realized there is no obligation to address every point, but I have the freedom to revise my views when I receive new information. More importantly, by listening without judgment and asking questions, the conversation can often turn to values, where areas of agreement can be uncovered. At the least, I would hope to represent others holding my same view in a more positive light than the way they might be characterized by those seeking to divide. At best, I have made a friend and look forward to future engagement. In preparing for this talk, I summarized some of the practices that people working in this area are recommending, distilling them down to the following list: listening, curiosity, open-mindedness, kindness, forgiveness, acceptance, and patience. It's satisfying to realize that these behaviors are all ways that we can express love. As the covenant we recited earlier says, seek the truth in love. Recently, I heard an interesting story on a Radiolab podcast. The story begins on a day when an AIDS activist group called ACT UP demonstrated in protest outside the NIH. At the time, Dr. Anthony Fauci was head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, or NIAID. He was in his office working. The demonstrators burned Dr. Fauci in effigy. Then they took the effigy head and put it on a spike. One of the protest leaders, Peter Staley, climbed a wall just outside the building and unfurled a banner. Police came and pulled him off the wall, handcuffing him and walking him through the building. It happened that while Peter was being escorted through the hallway, they passed Dr. Fauci. Peter said, "Tony? Peter? Are you all right?" "Yeah, how about you?" he answered. "Just trying to keep operating. Good luck with that. We'll talk tomorrow. "Okay, Peter, see you later." Meanwhile, the police are murmuring, "Say what?" It turns out that Dr. Fauci and others had been meeting regularly with ACT UP for around 2 years. The meeting started when Dr. Fauci first heard these aggressive statements from ACT UP, and he decided that if they felt that strongly, he should meet with them to find out more. He eventually came to agree with their main points, but was having difficulty getting his executive committee to concur. Shortly after that meeting in the hallway, the NIAID changed its policy, and it improved the prognosis for many AIDS patients. In her book, Strangers in Their Own Land, Stanford sociologist Arlie Hochschild recounts stories of her encounters with Tea Party members in southern Louisiana. She found that many had suffered losses in lifestyle, income, and health as a result of economic changes and environmental pollution in their region. The enigma for Hochschild was that these people were sometimes acting against their own interests. Membership in the Tea Party filled several important needs, providing a story to explain what they experienced, as well as a way to take action, but most importantly, providing a community of like people. There was a tacit acknowledgement of the power structures in the region and the futility of fighting these structures. Talking across difference is one of a limited number of ways that we can have an impact in the world. Through it, we can play a role in reducing the culture of contempt that is evident in our society. Perhaps it could help someone experiencing cognitive dissonances arising from their views to realize that there is a friendly community on the other side. As it did for Hochschild and Dr. Fauci, communication across difference can help us to better understand and build sympathy for some of our fellow citizens. Perhaps that knowledge will enable us to make the best choice in which groups we support. My brother and I are still enjoying regular, long conversations without the need to dance around every area of potential disagreement. Seeking the truth in love or communication across differences have a role to play at all levels in the quest to improve our society.
We're going to sing hymn 1029. I'm going to play it through first because Stearns didn't leave behind the thing for up there, which we do have now. But that says to me, we haven't sung it in a while, so we will sing. You'll listen to it and then we'll sing it. Okay, I'll play through once. Please rise.
Good morning. My name is Bob Calafiore. I've been a member of MUUF for about 4 years. When we first started Button, I naively thought that all was required was to reduce polarization, was to give some courses on talking to people with different political views. So we offered several classes sponsored by a group named Braver Angels. In retrospect, these classes were just a starting point. We had not taken into account many factors, including how difficult it is to overcome our instinctive tendencies and the emotions designed by evolution for survival and fight or flight. For many of us, it takes extensive effort and practice to be patient, struggle with and control our emotions and our ego, which can be so easily bruised, and not to react instinctively under stress, listen without judgment, and know when to provide wise responses and when to listen and empathize. Nonetheless, there are proven and successful methods that try to mitigate these difficulties. For example, organizations like the Braver Angels create highly controlled, safe environments where people practice speaking to persons from the other side, with the goal that eventually at least some of them can develop enough skills, trust, and even friendships to hold respectful political conversations on their own. Now, invaluable as these organizations are, they have limitations. They attract primarily people close to the political center, and with the majority of them left-leaning. This leaves out a lot of other people. There is a second method. Have you ever heard of a black blues musician named Daryl Davis? I highly recommend his TED Talk. He invited individuals from the Ku Klux Klan to his home, gained their trust, and made them his friends. Over 30 years, he convinced about 200 Klansmen, including the KKK Grand Wizard, to give up their robes. Unfortunately, people like Daryl Davis, with his opportunities and natural abilities, are rare. But what if there was a third method? To recognize fear, anger, frustration, and other negative emotions as they arise, and just not engage them. What if the more we practice letting go, our sense of ego decreased, and we would be more naturally operating out of love and compassion? There would be no need for courage or patience or battling our emotions. What a great way to truly defund fear, anger, frustration. Happily, such a method is available through the practice of mindfulness, and it can free us from the stumbling blocks and false solutions that we've inherited. This specific aspect of mindfulness can be learned within a short period of time, a few months in my case. Now you may say, that sounds great, but does it really work? For many years, I've interacted with people, some of whom I live with, who were angry with me. They saw much of what I said or did as criticizing or threatening them. And I saw them as trying to control me, turning everything into a crisis, and even denying right to my face what all of us had just seen or heard. To further increase conflict and frustration, their politics and religion are antithetical to mine. We try to keep our conversations to a minimum, but frustration and anger would inevitably slip out, leading to more conflict. I often felt condemned to a living hell with no way out, but for the lack of not for the lack of trying, including working with various counselors, practicing faith-based or highly disciplined approaches, and even trying to deny my emotions, to overcome the anger, frustration, fear, isolation, and loneliness that kept me constantly imprisoned in that hell. I did derive some hope, helpful outlets, and distractions through my former Catholic faith, and more recently through activities and interactions with many of you. But they were never enough. Ever since learning through mindfulness how to not engage with negative thoughts, emotions, it feels like I've gotten the keys out of prison. What remains is love, compassion, and a strong sense of freedom. David spoke about seeking truth in love. My experience and understanding is that love shows you a deeper and wiser truth. Instead of seeing these people as out to get me and impossible to reason with, I now see suffering souls who need to be accepted and loved where and as they are. Recently, I went to stay with and help one of them for over a month. Now, instead of seeing it as a time to be dreaded, I saw it as an opportunity to discover and let go of obstacles to love. I hugged them for the first time in over 20 years. I had caring, direct conversations with them and felt thankful that I was able to help them with some of their needs. A similar and even more dramatic change has happened with another one of them. I now can see what a kind and loving person they are and try to be. Whereas before, we were constantly criticizing and fighting, we rarely argue now, and the arguments are short-lived. I enjoy learning concrete ways to be kind to them and people in general, and let them know how grateful I am for all that they do. What about their very right-leaning beliefs? I see them as victims who, in their need for safety and acceptance, have been misled and provided with a constantly reinforced story that blames their suffering on the other side. Having access to like-minded community gives them a sense of safety and opportunity to easily be heroes and saints. Now, who would want that? Part of acting out of love means seeking wiser alternatives and knowing when people are open to hear certain truths and when it's better to nurture relationships and build trust. For now, building love is what is most required for me. We look for ways to free people from externally imposed harm or suffering. Wouldn't it be great if we learned to free ourselves of internal struggles and suffering through mindfulness? Then, not only could we more easily help bring people together, we could model and help others live in fuller freedom and love no matter what their circumstances.
Please rise and sing number 1031 on the table. And it will be up there.
We have shared with you some of our experiences, suggestions for helping to deepen our awareness and understanding of truth through love, reducing suffering, increasing happiness, and bringing our world a bit closer together. Dave, Joe, and I invite you to join us in helping to be a uniter as best fits your circumstances. We'll be available during coffee hour to answer your questions. We also have prepared a handout that you can get at our table outside that includes reading resources, online tools, and groups both within and external to the fellowship to help you in this vital endeavor. See you outside.